these vouchers will not be paying for the full extent of private school tuition. This is a subsidy for wealthy Texans to get a little bit of a break on the amount that they're paying to these private schools.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
David Griscom from Left Reckoning. David, welcome back to the show.
What's up, y'all? Congrats on pulling all this money, and it's pretty incredible.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Scoot over a little.
Oh, dude.
Oh, yeah. That was my fault. I could have adjusted it, but I'm now 8 hours.
It's all right. I'm flexible. Yeah, y'all are killing it, man. Got a long time ahead of y'all, though.
Yep.
What's the plan? Y'all got some Red Bull or?
I've been sipping on my 5-hour energy shots, so I don't know. We'll see how long it lasts. At some point, all my medication's going to wear off, and I'm just going to crash. And that's just the reality of it. I'm not as young as I used to be. Jacob is younger than me and likes to remind me of that all the time. And so I'm going to let him stay on the air a little longer than me while I tag out. So that's the plan. But we've got a lovely schedule on a Google Sheet here with fantastic people such as yourself who've been coming on all day and will continue to come on until tomorrow. And that's just really cool. Really appreciate you and everybody else who's been willing to volunteer some time to do this.
Yep. Yeah, really appreciate it.
Of course. No, thank y'all for doing this. I mean, I'm happy to see the numbers as high as they are. Not that I had any doubts, but it's always good. It's one of those things, when you hold a party, you hope people show up, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. I was like, I had like a huge knot in my stomach last night, and I was like going on a walk with my wife, and I was like, oh god, what if I did all this work and like nobody's gonna come, and it's not gonna like we're not gonna raise any money, and I'm gonna then after 8 hours we're not gonna have raised any money, but I'll have already committed myself to streaming for 32 hours, and then I'm gonna have to stream for another 24 hours knowing that I haven't raised any money, and I'm not gonna raise any money, and like I went into like a little bit of a spiral. But it's good now, so there we go.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
It all worked out, and I was just too freaking busy to even get down that rabbit hole, honestly, scrambling between this and everything else in life, so it was very last minute. We didn't know all the guests until, they happen, really, in some cases, but that's okay. We're rolling with it. It's going great, and you're here now, and I'm looking forward to the conversation, what you got to say, for real. I always appreciate your commentary, and appreciate you getting the word out just about how we as working people can come together and make a difference in our lives.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. So, David, what has been what have you been up to lately? What's been going on over in Texas?
I mean, a lot. I mean, we're dealing with our governor and the government of Texas continue to wage war on migrants, trying to push a voucher system on the state of Texas, which is up and down. We'll see what ends up happening here. With that, they're basically fudging pushing up against the legality of what it is that they're able to do in the legislature. So we'll be watching that. That's kind of breaking. But did y'all happen to hear? We're on the internet, so maybe it's a good time for an internet story. Did y'all happen to hear about the Nick Fuentes drama here in the state of Texas?
No.
Yes, sir.
No idea.
It's so good,
and this is pretty funny.
I mean, look.
Yeah, I'm usually plugged into the internet drama, so.
Well, this one's pretty big. So it was a couple of weeks back. So I think it was a Monday morning. I'm like, having my coffee and I'm reading the news and the Texas Tribune and other places. And there's all these photographs of Nick Fuentes. And I'm like, man, this feels like a little bit of a segment we might do or Majority Report might be doing. What's going on here? Well, one of the leaders of, I believe it's White Horse Pack. I could be getting whatever combination of animals and colors they have together over there, but it's one of the major right-wing Republican political action committees here in Texas. Had a meeting with Nick Fuentes. And a Tribune reporter got photographs of him entering and exiting the building about 5-6 hours apart. And Dade Phelan, there's a little bit of lore you got to understand to get the full extent of it. But Texas, like many other Republican-controlled states, is in the midst of a pretty vicious inter-party civil war. And the civil war that's going on here is between the Texas House and the Texas Senate, and then the executive branch of the government. As people probably remember, our illustrious Attorney General, Ken Paxton, had impeachment proceedings filed against him, was approved by the House, and he was able to be exonerated in the Senate. So there's already a lot of bad blood between the House and the Senate. And I wake up on Monday and Dade Phelan, the Speaker of the House, again, a Republican, no real friend of labor or working people, is tweeting out all this stuff about how Nazism has no place in the Texas GOP. Wow. To which, and specifically called on Dan Patrick and a bunch of other Texas Republicans to return all of their donations from this political action committee, which donates a lot of money to Republicans in the state, because they were meeting with somebody named Nick Fuentes, who I'm sure a lot of people here know. But if you don't, he is a pretty pathetic, but no less malicious or nasty neo-Nazi white supremacist. And yeah, he was meeting with one of the leaders of this major and influential Republican political action committee here. And Dade Phelan was calling on any Republican of conscience to return and disavow any donations or relationship that they have with this political action committee. To which Dan Patrick, the lieutenant governor, said that it's disgusting at a time right now when Israel is under attack to be using anti-Semitism to gain political favor, basically saying, no, I'm not returning the $3 million that I've got from this political action committee. And in fact, Dade Phelan himself should resign. So it's been a little spicy over here. And then, of course, in the background is this kind of internal fight that is 100% happening between Abbott, the Senate, and the other members of the executive branch here in Texas with the Texas House. They did, the former leader of that political action committee has stepped down. He was replaced by another kind of Looney Tune character. And a lot of people have had to disavow the the little character that Nick Fuentes is. But, you know, I mean, the thing about following Texas politics is you're going to be depressed a lot, but there's never lack of entertainment in this state.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
Yes. We can relate to that for sure in Alabama.
Yes, sir. We can relate to it, but unfortunately, the infighting in the Alabama Republican Party is not as strong as not
lately. Not lately. They went through their whole cycle of like infighting and incarceration and indictments. You know, a few years back. At one point, you know, the head of all three branches of government was being removed or in the process of being removed. But yeah, it's been a few years. They've kind of straightened up a little bit. It's a little more boring. They still try to mess around with vouchers too. But so yeah, that's definitely disappointing to hear in Texas. Hopefully, it will not gain traction. You know, for those who aren't. Well,
I mean, really, what is? So I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
No, go ahead. I was just gonna ask if you could maybe elaborate on kind of like what they're proposing. You know, with these voucher schemes.
Yeah, I mean, the voucher program is pretty similar to what we've seen in other states. It's let's let parents decide where they want their education dollars to go. And, you know, it'd be taking money out of public schools to allow wealthy people to bring their money into private institutions. You know, it's always framed in this way of, it's about parents' choice and caring for kids and making sure that kids can get the best education. Of course, as most people know, private school is extremely expensive. And these vouchers will not be paying for the full extent of private school tuition. So what it basically is a subsidy for wealthy Texans to be able to get a little bit of a break on the amount that they're paying to these private schools. It's been something that for a long time, the political wisdom in Texas is don't touch that. Because Texas, like a lot of other, even Republican states, but particularly like these, poor southern states, these school districts are massively important culturally and economically for a lot of districts and counties in the state of Texas. They're major employers, and most people, even Republicans from these rural districts, sort of know what's up. That taking money out of public school means it's going, and you can promise. Abbott's kind of weasel word is Texas schools will always be fully funded, but that's a kind of vague promise there. So we'll see. I think today. So he's called multiple special sessions on this. It looked like it was dead. I think there's been some movement right now. I have to admit, the past couple of days, I haven't been able to follow it as closely to give you all a quick rundown of what's been going on. But it's been something that, Abbott and Dan Patrick, I think, really want to be able to say that they got done. And the jury's still out if it's going to be able to get through. But it's another example of anti-worker politicians trying to take money out of public goods that benefit the vast majority of people, so that they can line the pockets of wealthy folks. Because one thing I always try to remind people about vouchers in particular is it's not just a question of public schools being underfunded through it. It's also a question of taking something that is publicly controlled and is used for public benefit, social benefit, and finding a way to get some weird guys to be able to make money off of it. Right. So if you're increasing the amount of money that's going into private pockets, not only are you taking money out of the public institutions, but you're also taking public money and lining the pockets of random folks. And as we've seen from voucher programs, privatized schools across the country, a lot of these schools don't have as strict rules as to how educating children, the expectations of the quality of education that people are receiving. And yeah, certainly there are good private schools out there. We can admit that, right? But as a whole, there is also a lot of really nasty private schools out there that fail at providing education to children. And yeah, I mean, it's another kind of cruel example of the war on sociability, right? Because another aspect of this, they always accuse us on the left of this, and I think it's a damn good thing, frankly. I think that people who live in our society should live in our society, and that includes education. Having public education, having people socialize, live, be educated in our community, in our towns, in our cities is a good thing. One, so that people are educated, but two, that people are socialized to know their neighbors, to know their town, to know people who might not have the same life experience as them. And this kind of nasty antisocial behavior that we're seeing from the right is rearing its ugly head again.
Yeah, and the I'm interested in how there's a lot that you said there. I was when you said Nick Fuentes, I was not expecting that to be the drama. I think I vaguely remember seeing something about that, but I was expecting the drama to be more personal in nature. With, and I don't know, there are a lot of rumors going around about Nick Fuentes and his personal.
Well, the thing is, I have to say, I mean. I don't oftentimes try to get into the mind of the devil, I have to admit, but what on God's green earth were these people expecting to happen, right? Not only that, people were going to find out, right? And one of the things is like, oh, it was a setup. Well, whatever, man. You're meeting with Nick Fuentes. If a journalist came and caught it and had a tip to Dade Phelan, I don't know, good on them. That's good investigative reporting. But beyond that, it's just like, what's the idea here that Nick Fuentes is going to open up for pale horse strategies or defend Texas liberty? You know what I mean? Like, frankly, it's like, is it that he's going to turn out the youth vote? I have a feeling that Nick Fuentes' audience is actually a lot of weird old guys. Not really the youth of America, frankly. I hope so, at least, I don't know. But yeah, I was expecting something different, and we'll leave it at that as far as Nick Fuentes. But I'm interested in how the Texas Education Association is fighting back against vouchers in Texas, because in Alabama,
The Alabama Education Association is actually, to their credit, even though I would not agree with their strategy, they've been very successful in warding off vouchers so far. The Republicans have had a trifecta and a supermajority since 2010. Before that, actually, both houses of the legislative chambers were held by Democrats. But in 2010, they swept, and they got supermajorities, I think, immediately. And so then they had a trifecta. And since then, there's always been a push for universal vouchers, and the AEA has been able to push it off, in part because some of the Republicans are, conservative blue dog Democrats who switched. And so, these are people that have been Democrats all their lives, and, they hate gay people and they hate immigrants, but they're like, public education, that's fine. I'm fine with that. But also in part by basically buying off all of the other Republicans by donating millions of dollars, spending millions of dollars in support of Republicans in this state. And so by doing that, they've been able to hold off school vouchers by basically making Republicans kind of beholden to them and threatening them more or less with supporting a primary challenger in the Republican Party should they go for school vouchers. Now, the institutional Republican Party is trying to push back against this by passing bans on accepting AEA donations. I don't think they've succeeded yet, but there's definitely interest there. So yeah, that's basically been the Alabama Education Association's tact is, just give your enemy a lot of money. So to their credit, they've been successful, but I have a feeling that strategy has a shelf life. How have education unions in Texas been responding to this threat?
I mean, there's been, pretty significant protests, and I don't know, like the donation political strategy off the top of my head, I will admit, but, there's been a lot of attempts to try to whip up public support for this. And here's the thing is like a lot of things in the state, there's not really a lot of public support for vouchers. There might be some public support when you say, hey, do you think that parents should have school choice, right? Or these kind of things when, it's a kind of low information situation. We're like, oh, should people have a choice? Well, everyone wants choice, right? Everyone wants influence. But some of the exciting things that I have seen has been some kind of cross-union organization. I'm forgetting the name of the plumbers union here. But there were attempts to train plumbers to work as substitute teachers, to allow Texas teachers to be able to call in sick, basically, and go and protest and participate in marches on the Texas ledge, and have union support, taking care of the kids at their schools, which is the kind of thing that I know both of y'all support. And I think we just are hoping to see much more of is cross union support in these kind of fights, not just in the sense of like, oh, we stand with y'all, but like physically standing and coordinating on that level. I think is something that's very encouraging. That's awesome. But look, at the end of the yeah, it's super awesome. I mean, it's exactly the kind of strategizing that I think we need, particularly with some of the limitations that public employees have in the state of Texas when it comes to certain actions. I think, at the end of the day, I mean, it's a tough situation because what's going on right now with this attempt from Abbott, there's a lot of political blackmailing going on behind the scenes. One of the things I've been writing about for Jacobin and other publications for a while has been the centralization of power, in particularly Greg Abbott's hands solo, but across the board in the kind of leadership in the Texas Republican Party, they're running that party really tight. And even though we're seeing these huge gulfs and conflicts, that's been because some Republicans are trying to sort of cement some power or influence for themselves. But there's not a lot of daylight right now in Texas politics. The hope at the end of the day is that some of these rural Republicans who have been sort of adamant about not supporting, vouchers for a while, are able to maintain their opposition. But I mean, what we're getting from Patrick and from Abbott is, one, a threat to just continue doing special sessions, and also going into election season next year, really funding primary challenges for people. So there's a lot of money coming after Republicans who are opposing the voucher system right now.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.